2. I'm going to go ahead and start, guys. Okay, start broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Nancy Pinkerton with Socius. Sorry, somebody just logged in. Please let me know if you have any problem with the audio. Again, Nancy Pinkerton with Socius. Today we have kwiktag, Craig Randall and John Michael that will be presenting. And we do have everyone on listen only right now. And if you have any questions as the event rolls through, if you would just put them into the question queue on the right, we'll address them at the end of the webinar. We are recording today, so we will have a nice recorded session that you can go back and revisit. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Craig get started. Again, if anyone has any technical issues, please let me know, and I'll follow up on the side. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, and good morning to everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about hacking through paper clutter and simplifying your digital life, and we're going to focus today on accounts payable. Our agenda is as follows. Talk a little about who we are, what is life hacking, some of the distractions that you face in the AP arena, and as it relates to GP, what some of those issues are and how we life hack for GP. And we'll go to the demo. And John Michaels, our VP of Worldwide Sales and Marketing, is going to do that demo. So a little about ImageTag. We've been around since 1997. We're a privately held organization, and we're recognized as a leader in the industry for document-to-decision solutions. Since 1997, we have acquired roughly 1,000 customers in 12 countries. We also have 8 U.S. patents. Some of them will show in our product today. We were, back in 2004, the first fully embedded solution for Dynamics GP. And since that time, we have 300,000 users around the world with an annual support renewal rate of 94%. Significant because the industry average is roughly 86%. So what is life hacking? Obviously, prior to someone bringing life hacking to all of our attention, we were doing them probably in everyday activities and not really know it. But from a definitions perspective, it's just a more efficient way of getting something done that you do every day. I really like the Wikipedia definition. Anything that solves an everyday problem in a clever or non-obvious way. There are multiple ways you life hack, and here are just a few that focus on work-life habits. And you have several people how they do them, and you probably do them every day and not really recognize it as well. As I said, be anything from working out every day before you go to work, scheduling yourself to do work at a specific point in time, whether it be emails or returning phone calls, just doing things that allow you to be more effective that you do on a everyday basis. So here are some examples. Some are kind of mundane, but often a little silly as well. This one is pretty interesting. When I first saw it, it actually got my attention right away because one, I like grilled cheese, and two, it's very easy. Anything that's simple and easy, I really like to do it. So turning that toaster sideways now gets you grilled cheese as opposed to just toast. Some actually combine some of the tools that we have at our disposal today and modifying some of the habits that we use with those tools. What you see here is a picture of a smartphone with receipts. As a sales professional, one of the things that I hate to do is expense reports because you got to attach receipts to an Excel spreadsheet, scan them in. It just makes it very difficult. Well, life hacking with my cell phone today, when I travel, I take a picture of that expense receipt right away, mail it in to myself, and now I'm looking at an electronic receipt. One nice way of life hacking that particular experience. So what's really the problem? We really think that multitasking really helps us, having phones or being able to, take your notebook on the road with you. But from a phone's perspective, the average person checks your phone. Again, think of multitasking 150 times a day. Now, I'm not really sure if that's multitasking, but I know it's quite disruptive. I know many of us, we do it while we're driving, we do it while we're walking, but again, checking that phone is something that we think helps, but actually is really part of the problem. And why is it part of the problem? Because it doesn't allow us to focus. We have that phone, so what really happens is we spend a very little amount of time on task before interruption. And you know what happens when we're interrupted and we're doing some work. I know my boss, John, shuts his door because that tells us he doesn't want to be interrupted. But some of us sometime will be walking by his office, and I'm pretty guilty, and sticking my head in, and I'm sure that he's pretty diligent about staying focused, but I know it does happen to him that what was I really working on when I got this interruption? And it says that we take more than 25 minutes to resume a task after being interrupted. When you think about the accounts payable arena, how many times do you say, let me call you back? We're working on something and the phone rings. Those are the types of things that really we want to try and life hack a little better. And kwiktag will allow you to do that. So really maintaining focus and eliminating interruptions. And that's the goal of really life hacking. You want to minimize the unnecessary phone calls. Maybe your tool can deliver self-service. You want to automate as many of those standard tasks as you possibly can so you can do what? Focus on resolving exceptions. And kwiktag will show you exactly how you can do that. So why does it matter? Because we're bombarded every day with priorities, constantly bombarded. So multitasking really is not the answer. Throwing more bodies at it really doesn't help. And from a Dynamics and accounts payable situation, the distractions are many. And you ask yourself, how many vendors do you send paper invoices to? You can go down the list, so forth and so on. But from an accounts payable perspective, these are the types of things that go on every day in your arena. Are the documents where you need it? Is there duplication of effort? And then more importantly, how much potential for error is there? So in the demo today, John will show you exactly how kwiktag allows you to life hack issues relating to accounts payable and eliminating some of these type of distractions and diversions. So we look at, what's really wrong with the process today. Too many steps, too much time, very little control, and obviously not enough visibility. And here's that interruption or diversion, let me call you back. Favorite answer when we get a phone call, we're trying to answer a question, can I call you back? One of the least tracked items, especially in the accounts payable arena today. So as we get ready to do this demo, we want you to understand what the vision is for kwiktag to address some of those issues. Well, we see kwiktag as one system for everything document related, or document burden if you want to use that term. Any department, any document from any touch point. And that touch point might be your iPad, iPhone, Android phone. And we do this by deploying the kwiktag platform. We've established that certain functionality needs to be in place. So we established that base. And that's normally going to be our kwiktag platform, which includes our patent pending capture solution. And on top of that, we build a quick app. And we'll talk about, one of the quick apps today is Quick Payables. And it's basically a set of prepackaged code that's reusable that has 3 significant things in it when it's delivered: workflow and intelligent routing, document association, and reporting. And those 3 things come with every quick app that we deliver. The importance of quick apps is it was designed for organizations that use Dynamics. Any department or process that is supported by Dynamics, or any department or process independent of Dynamics. One system, as you go back to one vision, for every and anything document related. And kwiktag is that solution that we've deployed for that arena. Now I'm getting ready to give John the control for the presentation, and I think you'll see that we have a great vision for improving the accounts payable arena with kwiktag. John?
Thanks, Craig. Really appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great day so far. This is going to be a hopefully a fast-moving presentation demonstration that I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and show my screen here. So my first question to everybody out there, and obviously you're not going to be able to answer me audibly, but I want you to just think about this, is how are you doing accounts payable today? What's your process? I got to tell you, we have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of accounts payable automation projects, using kwiktag and the Quick Payables Quick app, and I've seen it all. My favorite story, real quick, just to kind of get you guys warmed up a little bit, is we were working for a large church organization, and you're not going to believe this, but they had literally 12 levels of approval before they could pay an invoice. So I'll repeat that. A church organization, okay, 12 levels of approval. So in the type of an environment where you'd expect people to trust each other, they had literally built a process that was so broken and so devoid of trust that it literally took a complete overhaul of that process and complete automation of that process for them to kind of, quote unquote, come back down to earth and build a process that was actually going to work for them. So think about your process a little bit as we go through this. Okay, let's go ahead and show my screen here. All right, you should be looking at my desktop, and what I want to do is start by talking about how do invoices get into the kwiktag system. So my favorite method, and the method that I think is the favorite of all of our customers, is why not have your vendors, I should say, email their invoices directly into your accounts payable system. Wouldn't that be efficient? Wouldn't it be nice to not have to go to the mailroom anymore or have the mailroom dump a bunch of envelopes on your desk? If you're nodding your head, then this is absolutely already probably a good solution for you. So what I've got here is an email already created, and you can see I've got just a PDF attached. I can have as many invoices attached to this email as I want, but for the purposes of my demo, I'll just do one. So here's our invoice. It's from Beaumont Construction, and you can see it's for $5,656, and it's being sent to our good old Fabricam. If you've seen GP demos and webinars before, you know Fabricam, right? So that's always the demo that we use, and so on and so forth. So that's the invoice that we're working with, and so the receivables department at Beaumont is going to be sending this invoice to a specific dedicated email address, and this email address can be anything that you want, but it is designed to feed directly into the kwiktag system. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And now let's log into kwiktag. So of course I've already got it up. Here it is. And so what we're looking at is this is what we call the kwiktag user client. It's a browser-based application. It'll run on any browser that you've got. Craig, can you see me right now? Can you see my screen?
John, I can. This is Nancy.
Okay, great. Yeah, I got a message here saying that he couldn't see my screen, but I guess that was not true. So very cool. I'm glad you can see it. So what we're looking at is the kwiktag user client, browser-based, will run on any browser. And in this particular case, I've got my accounts payable hat on. Okay, so I want you to follow me now. I'm an accounts payable person, and over here you can see I'm logged in as a user named Indexer. Don't worry about the names that we call these things. This is an accounts payable person. And what we're looking at is their work queue. Okay, and the work queue are going to be the series of documents that they have to perform some work on. So what we're looking at is typically a bunch of invoices. You can see the document type here. What I want to do is I'm actually going to point out a few of these invoices here that have a document type of ICE1. Okay, now ICE is what we call the kwiktag Intelligent Cloud Extraction Service. So what's Intelligent Cloud Extraction? Well, you'll notice if I just go to a different document that's not ICE, okay, so for example, this invoice here, which is International Telephone, way over here on the left-hand side, there's no information about this document whatsoever. So basically what kwiktag is waiting for you to do is classify what this document is. Okay? With Intelligent Cloud Extraction, I've got the same exact invoice, but because the cloud has actually extracted all of the data about the document and performed some computation on it, it's able to automatically complete a variety of information for you without you having to key anything in. So for example, it pulls the vendor name. Where does it get the vendor name from? Right here. So it then does a lookup into your GP system. It looks at the street address, the city, the state, and the zip code, and then does a lookup into your GP system, and it can discern your vendor ID based on the vendor name. So it goes ahead and pulls the vendor ID, so you don't have to. It then pulls the document number, and you can see the document number is right up here. It pulls the document date, and you can see that that's here. And last but not least, the purchases amount, $1,485.26, and it pulls that from here. So intelligent cloud extraction is designed to save you time in data entry, right? So it's an add-on service to Quick Payables. It actually works with just about any Quick app you can imagine, and it's all in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about your IT team setting it up or maintaining it or buying more hardware. Basically, you just set up your scanners and your kwiktag system to work with ICE, and you get this automatic data extraction. So accounts payable, I'm looking at this invoice, all the data has been extracted. Now everything looks accurate, which is great. If it's inaccurate, of course, I can click in any of these fields and I can make any adjustments that I need to in order to make the data accurate. But in this case, we're 100% accurate. So the next step in the process is somebody needs to code this invoice. Now some of our customers, accounts payable knows the GL chart of accounts like the back of their hand. They do their own coding. In a lot of larger organizations, that's just not feasible, that's not possible, it's not even practical. And so the individual department managers know the GL codes that are germane to their particular departments. And so that's the use case that we're going to run here. So in this particular case, as accounts payable, I'm just going to look at the document, make sure everything's accurate, and then send the document on its way. Literally one click. Okay, so the document disappears from my queue. It then goes on to the next document, and I can look at the data, and I can submit, and I'm basically done. So what's happening now is that once the accounts payable person submits, that is now the document is going to be picked up by the kwiktag workflow engine. The workflow engine in kwiktag is looking at your business rules, your customized, personalized business rules. And it's saying, okay, I've got an invoice here. It's destined for Fabricam. It's for $1,486, whatever the dollar amount is. Where does it need to go next? And where it needs to go next is to the department manager for coding. So pretty shortly here, I'm going to see an email that's going to pop up, and that's actually going to notify the department manager that they have a new invoice that they need to code. So let's just head over to email. Yeah, it hasn't shown up quite yet. Sometimes it can take a couple of minutes. But let's just go ahead and log in to the kwiktag user client now as department manager. Okay. So you can see I've just got a whole slew of documents sitting in here. I've got expense receipts. Hey, Craig, this one was one from when you and I and Shay went out to lunch. And here's the email that you can see that popped up notifying the department manager that they have a new invoice that needs to be coded. So I'll just open that up real quick. And you can see here in the subject line, new invoice for GL coding. All of the invoice information that was extracted by ICE is going to show up in here, including the default GL codes. We'll get to default GL codes in just a second. Of course, it's got a copy of the invoice, so I can look at it if I want to. And when I'm good and ready, I can go and log into the kwiktag client, which is going to then take me to this screen, my work queue. I'll go ahead and find the one from today's date. And here's our international telephone invoice with all of the data waiting for me. Now, my job, of course, is to code. So I can go ahead and click on the GL distribution button here. And what it's going to do is if you're using default GL codes, those GL codes are already going to be present in this particular modal box. So you can take a quick look, and if the default codes are the ones that you want, then you can simply submit and you're good. If you want to override these, or if you want to add some additional codes, you can add as many codes as you want, okay, as long as the debits and the credits balance, of course. And there's a few ways that you can do that. You can go to your international telephone company defaults or your Fabricam company defaults, and here are the default codes, okay? Or you can pull up your entire chart of accounts. Now, the chart of accounts for a lot of companies is going to be exceptionally long, and so we've given you a filtering capability where you can either type in the first few digits of the code number, or you can type in the first few characters of the code description. So for example, if I was looking at a computer expense, I could type in, computer, and it's going to filter all of my codes to only show those codes that have the word computer in it. So if I wanted to add, say, computer equipment, I would double-click. It adds that. I can define what a debit and credit type it is, and then, of course, I can specify the dollar amount. Again, as long as it balances. If it doesn't balance, then I'm going to get an error. I'm not going to be able to submit this. So let's just go ahead and remove this. We'll go with the default codes, say submit. Now, in the comments field, this is where I can communicate downstream with other people in the workflow. Now, remember I mentioned my church organization that had 12 levels of approval. I don't recommend that, obviously. Your organization has however many levels of approval you currently have, and maybe it's based on dollar amount, or maybe it's based on dollar amount and location, or maybe you've got an even more sophisticated approval matrix that's dependent upon dollar amount, location, and GL code. Regardless, we're going to map to that exactly how you want us to. And the next person in the line here, now that the invoice has been coded, is going to be the first approver. So I want to tell them, please approve as soon as possible. Now, in my particular demo environment, our workflow matrix says we only have one level of approval because I want our demos to go quickly, and you don't need to see an invoice hop from one person to another when all they're doing is essentially looking at it and approving it. So we're going to one person, and that one person is going to be the CFO. So let's go ahead and submit it. Again, it disappears from my work queue, and now the kwiktag workflow engine is going to pick up that document and say, okay, now we've got an invoice that's been, all the information's been filled out, coding has been completed, where does this document need to go? It then looks at the workflow matrix that you maintain, and it knows, okay, I need to go to the CFO now for approval. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of close out of this tab. We'll open a new tab. We'll log in as CFO, and you're going to see here all the different documents that CFO has to review in their work queue. All right, so in a couple seconds here, you should now see the view of the CFO's work queue. And we've got a lot of stuff going on in here. We've got contracts to review. We've got people who want to hire new employees, employee requisitions that need to be approved. We've got offer letters that are going out the door that the CFO needs to approve. We've got checks that are about to be printed that need to be reviewed and approved. But primarily what we're interested in is invoices that have already been coded. And this is just getting a little bit cluttered. So here's a cool life hack that we actually built right into the product, which is let's be purpose-driven. Let's work with our work queue only on the document types that we actually want to work with and filter out everything else. So what I can do is just click up here where it says showing and how many documents it's showing, in this case 23. And all the different document types that are showing up in my work queue have a little checkbox next to them. So I can say, just show me the invoices that have been coded, and then I can very much refine my list and only work with the documents that I want. So here's the one from today. I'll go ahead and open up my preview screen so that you can see that it's the invoice from International Telephone. Okay, and all the information, again, has been extracted and coded. Now, if I want to view the codes, I can just right-click and say Show GL Distributions. And down here on the bottom, a little modal box will pop up, and it's going to show me my debits and my credits. So if I'm okay with that, great, I can close it out. If for some reason I'm not satisfied with that or I feel like it's been miscoded, you can either give your CFO edit rights, and he or she can override what's already there just by clicking on this button. In my demo, that's actually not possible. You don't want the CFO, we don't want the CFO to be able to override the department manager, but what the CFO can do is just go ahead and say, nope, those codes don't look good to me, or the dollar amount doesn't look right. I'm going to reject this, in which case kwiktag is going to ask the CFO to give a reason. You cannot reject a document or an invoice without giving a reason why. So in here I can say, please review codes or whatever. I would be more specific and descriptive than that, but you get the idea. So my other alternatives are I can delegate this to somebody else. So maybe under normal circumstances I would approve this invoice, but I'm not familiar with what's being purchased here, but maybe Craig is. So I can go ahead and delegate this, and I can find Craig, okay, double-click on Craig and choose him as a user, and then say, Craig, do you know more about this invoice than I do? Oops. And so in that case, it takes the approval away from me and gives it to Craig. So this list that you see here is actually a list of approvers, if you'll pardon the redundancy. And so I can't just assign it to anybody, but based on the workflow rules, once again, that you set up, here are the people that I can delegate to that have the authorization to approve an invoice if I choose to delegate to them. And then, of course, last but not least, if everything looks hunky-dory, I can go ahead and I can approve it. So let's do that. So I approve it. It disappears from my work queue. The kwiktag workflow engine, you're going to notice a pattern here. The kwiktag workflow engine is going to pick that document up, and it's going to say, okay, where does it need to go next? Now, in a multi-approval environment, it would then go on to the next person. Okay, and so the next person would then be able to see a trail of who's approved it and who's looked at it and who's done what to it, and then they can determine what they want to do. In my particular demo environment, again, to save time, the document only goes to one level of approval. And so what happens next? Now you have an invoice that's been created, the data has been extracted, the GLs have been coded, and it's been fully approved. So what kwiktag does is it actually moves it into GP for you automatically. And there's a couple of different ways that kwiktag can do this. kwiktag can either create a voucher for you straight away. We call this straight-through processing, or STP, which means that kwiktag is going to have a batch assigned specifically to it, where it would then take an approved invoice and automatically create a voucher from all of the data. It would attach the invoice to that voucher, which you'll see here in a second, code it up, and then add it to the batch that's been assigned to kwiktag. Alternatively, accounts payable departments a lot of times have specific batches for specific things. So what we've done is we've given you a work queue inside of GP to allow you to determine what batch to assign that invoice to. So I'm just going to go ahead and access the additional menu by pulling up any transaction screen. I'll pull up the non-invoice, payables transaction entry screen. When I hit the additional menu, all of my kwiktag functionality as it's embedded directly inside of GP is going to show up here. And all of these commands do different things, and we'll get back to a couple of these in a little bit. But the one that I want to show is, of course, the work queue. So where do those invoices go that have been approved, okay, but haven't been vouched yet because they're waiting to be assigned to a specific batch? And this is where they go. So your non-PO invoices go down here, and your PO purchase orders go up here. We don't have any at the moment, but you can see just by looking at the vendor ID, this is the one that we've been working with all along. I can mouse over it, and it shows me all the information about the invoice. I can double-click it, and I can look at the invoice, and when I'm ready, I can assign all, some, or one of these to any given batch. All I have to do is click the Create button, and what that's going to do is it's going to pull up a list of all of the available batches, all of the open batches that are sitting in my GP system right now. Alternatively, I can go ahead and click in this box, and I can type in a new batch. So if I wanted to, just create a new batch for this particular invoice, I can do that. All I have to do is just type, I don't know, new batch, just to be really original. Or I can click here, and it'll give me a list of all my available batches. I like to use John because that's me. So I'll click on John. You'll notice that the invoice, whoops, that didn't work. Let's try a different one. I'll try this one here. Just pretend like that didn't happen. Okay. So something was clearly wrong with that invoice. I apologize. That might have been a user error on my part. So you'll notice that the invoice disappears from the work queue. If I then open up John's batch, you can see I've got 3 vouchers. Here's the one that I just created, so I'll double-click it. And all of the information has been filled out for you. So the company ID, the document date, the voucher number has been automatically created so that it's unique. The document number is created so that it's unique. The dollar amount is there. I can go into the back screen and it'll show me the distributions which have been populated. And then best of all, okay, as this transaction now exists, pre-post, after it's been posted and it's sitting in the GL, at any point in time, if I want to look at the actual invoice documents, the supporting documentation related to this, I can say additional, view documents. It'll do a query into the kwiktag system, and it will actually show me a copy of that invoice sitting right here in the system. Pretty cool, huh? So now you don't have to go to the file cabinet anymore. You don't have to open up a separate piece of software. Everything is right there at your fingertips. And remember, the genesis of this whole process, what makes this so neat, the genesis of this whole process is your vendor emailed the document in, okay, and it ends up going directly into your GP system. Now, for you people that are a little bit more technically savvy, I want to just point something out. This image file is not actually sitting in your GP database, even though it feels like it is, even though it's attached to this voucher. It's actually sitting in the kwiktag database, and when you hit View Documents, it's doing a quick query out to the kwiktag database and pulling the image of the document for you directly inside of GP. Why does that matter? It matters because too many document management systems actually put their image files and other stuff inside of the GP database. And what that does is it bloats unnecessarily your GP database, okay, which is going to give IT all sorts of problems. It's going to slow GP down. You're even going to have situations where that might corrupt the data inside of GP, because GP database isn't really meant to have big PDFs or Word documents or Excel documents sitting in it with all of the transaction data, right? GP is an ERP system. It's designed to have transactions. It's designed to have table data. And when you start putting a bunch of big blobs in the GP database, it can actually crash your system. So we architected a solution that is as integrated and as embedded as the user experience could possibly be, while from an architectural standpoint, separating all of those big files from your GP database so that you can maintain the best performance, the best scalability, the best security. Okay, so what if I have more documents that I actually want to add to this voucher? Maybe I've got an email, or maybe I've got a packing slip that I want to actually add. So just to prove that we received the goods, let's go ahead and find a packing slip and let's add it. So I'm going to say additional tag documents, which means I'm going to tag a document to this transaction. I get a dialog box that pops up. You'll notice on this dialog box is this little barcode graphic, and then there's a 9-digit barcode number there. If I have a paper document that I want to attach, basically by scanning, I've actually got pre-numbered, globally unique, sequentially numbered barcode labels that sit on my desk. You get them from us. And they're sitting in a dispenser. It's like a little Scotch tape dispenser. So all you have to do is pop the label out of the dispenser, stick it on the lead page of the document. It's a very small label. Stick it anywhere on the lead page of the document. And then when it's convenient for you, you can go ahead and scan that document along with all the other documents that you want to scan. And kwiktag will automatically read that barcode and know, okay, barcode number 017650095 is attached to voucher number, and you can see the voucher up here, unless it's too small for you to see, in which case I'm sorry. But the point is that it links this barcode to this voucher. Now, alternatively, I mentioned a packing slip. Maybe my packing slip is already on the network. Maybe it's already been scanned, okay? So let's go with that. So I'm just going to put packing slip in the subject, okay, just so you can kind of see later what document it is. And then I can either browse out and find the electronic document, or I can even open up Windows Explorer and go find the document on the network. In this case, I'll just browse. Okay, let's move this over here. And we'll go to my desktop where I have some sample docs that I can use. And here is a packing slip after all those clicks. So I can click and drag if I want to. Okay, so you notice that if I can click and I drag, you see the icon comes with it. I can drag that in, or I can just go ahead and click on Open. It asks me, are you sure that you want to attach this to this particular voucher? And I can go ahead and say yes. And now it's basically taken all of the information about this voucher, and it also assigns it an electronic barcode number. So that 9-digit barcode number that I read to you before is only used if you're scanning a paper document to this voucher. If you're putting an electronic document into this voucher, it is not in any way, shape, or form going to burn through a physical label. It's just going to assign an electronic barcode to that voucher. So now if I hit additional view documents and it's going to do the query against all the documents in this voucher, there's going to be two. Okay, there's going to be the invoice, double click. Here's the invoice, okay, and then the packing slip right here. So you can continue to add documents, including emails. If I wanted to add an email, all I would do is say additional, tag documents. I would go over to my email. I would open it up maybe on a second monitor, ideally. I'm only using one monitor for my demo, so I'd have to kind of move things around a bunch. But I would just find the email that I want in my inbox and literally drag it over to the kwiktag dialog box, let go of my mouse button, and it would attach that email, and including all of its attachments, to this particular voucher. So really slick, easy, embedded, inline way to be able to manage your documents once this voucher is actually in the system. Okay, so there's so much more that you can do with kwiktag, and again, I want to keep the webinar moving. So one thing that I just want to show you is how would I go about seeing the workflow history of that particular document that we just put in the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to kwiktag really quick. There's a lot of ways to actually accomplish this, but I'm going to go back to kwiktag, and I'm going to go to what we call our drawers section. So drawers is essentially, this is the physical repository where all of the documents that you put in the kwiktag system are going to live. And my drawers are segmented by company or by site. So you can see I've got my Fabricam site. So all of the documents related to Fabricam are going to sit in here. And if I go to all drawers, and then I'm looking for payables transaction entry, I'll just type in payables. I'll go to my payables transaction entry drawer. And here's all the documents that I've ever attached to payables transaction entry. So here's, you'll notice the packing slip. And this would be the invoice that we just worked with. And the reason I know that is because this drawer is organized by the most recent documents will show up on top. If I'm not sure about that, all I have to do is just open my handy-dandy preview screen, and there's my invoice. Now again, if I want to look at the workflow history, so maybe your auditors show up, and your auditors say, hey, $1,485 to International Telephone. Who approved that? All I have to do is find the document that I want. Whoops, I picked the wrong one. Find the document that I want, right-click on it, and say Show Workflow History. That's going to do a query into the system, and it's going to show me all of the people who've touched the document, who've approved it, who've tagged it, who've put it in the ERP system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to use this sort of post-it metaphor. And then any notes that I may have left along the way are going to show up here in the middle. And if I've got a lot of notes, I can actually scroll up and down to kind of get through them if I need to. So that's how I find workflow history. Now, again, there's so much more that you can do with kwiktag in a payables type of a setting. One that we really don't have time to get into today is check approval. If you remember back when I had my CFO hat on, there were a bunch of checks sitting in the work queue. You can actually, as part of the Quick Payables application, set up either a preprint approval. So you've got your check report is run, everything's been posted, but you haven't printed your checks yet. And essentially you want to run through and review all of those checks on screen, automated online, with all of the supporting documentation, instead of having to sit there with a big stack of physical checks and all of the invoices paper-clipped and making your life, frankly, more difficult and more challenging because of all the paper that you've got to deal with. So everything can be on screen. You can look at all the different checks that before they're printed. You can look at all the supporting documentation. You can approve individual checks to be paid, or you can question the ones that shouldn't be paid just yet. And then everything goes back to, into GP, into accounts payable, so that they can, print the checks that have been approved or not if they haven't. And then we also have a post-print capability as well. So if your process is that you print your checks and then you actually approve them before they receive a signature, we can accommodate for that use case as well. Before I turn everything back over to Craig, I just want to say, if you go back to the vision of our company that Craig mentioned at the beginning, one system for all of your document management needs and all of your process automation and workflow needs. Payables is just one area where we're particularly strong. We're really strong in sales order processing. We're really strong in human resources. We're really strong in contract management and legal. We're really strong in forms automation, which kind of dovetails with HR, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Obviously, we're really strong in purchasing. So any paper-burdened, multi-step process, in particular, interdepartmental process, where it's got to go back and forth between you and finance and somebody outside of finance, kwiktag is a great solution to help you get all of those documents under control, give you full visibility into them, and manage that process to be a much more efficient way, and frankly a life-hacked way, to kind of get the most out of those processes and make them very, very efficient and effective. So with that, I will pass it back over to Craig, or actually I'll pass it back over to Julie.
Hi, this is Nancy. I'm sorry, Julie.
Nancy.
Yeah, I know it confuses because of the login. Craig he has some visibility now. He just had a lag, I think was one of the issues. Right now, I'm not seeing any questions. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask John or Craig? Something we might stress is that that kwiktag works well with any of the Dynamics products. Craig, you may have touched upon this, but I just wanted to reiterate that with GP, NAV, AX, and SL, Solomon. So I think most of the attendees today were GP users, but if you are not, we definitely can have a more in-depth conversation with John about NAV or AX or any of the products that you may want to see something more closely related to that. I was trying to think if there was, I just am not seeing any questions at all, so I guess we might go ahead and end. We do have a few more minutes if anyone else would like to raise their hand. I could even probably unmute you and you could ask your own questions. Or if you would reach out to myself or your own account manager, we could set up a more individualized demo with kwiktag. They're very easy to work with, and we'll be glad to do something more personalized for your specific needs. John, do you have anything to add?
Nancy, one thing, if you're wondering how can you get started, as Nancy said, you can contact your Socius account rep. But also be alerted that we are offering for those who participated on the webinar a 20% discount on any kwiktag solution if purchased by December 19th. So if you want a way to get started, contact your account rep. They will link us up together and we'll give you a more detailed presentation that specifically addresses your business process. But again, we have a special going for those who have participated and devoted their time to this webinar today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the guys from ImageTag and kwiktag taking their time out to present AP specifically, because that seems to be a big issue for a lot of clients. So I appreciate everybody's time. I know we send out a lot of invites, but image processing or document management seems to be one thing that everybody asks about. So it's certainly worth further investigation. So please let us know how we can help. And again, thanks for everyone's time. You all have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.